Hi, everyone. Welcome back to the AI Community Cast, sponsored by Neo4j. I'm here today with Sachin Naik from Crisp AI. So good to see you.
Thank you.
Why don't you tell everyone a little bit about yourself?
Nice. So, thank you for inviting me to this conference.
Yeah.
And so we happened to meet at a meetup that I went for Neo4j.
Yep.
And my primary reason to going to the meetup was to figure out Neo4j changes. And then you invited me to this conference, and that is where I'm coming over here and having a blast over here talking to people.
I'm so glad you came.
Yeah.
That's how these things work, right? You're
Yes.
at a meetup, and the next thing you know, we're
Yes.
spending 3 days together at the
Yes.
developer
Yes.
conference.
Yes.
I love it. So tell me a little bit about your background.
So my background is I come from a teaching background. I come from a technology background, kind of a mix of lot of things. So I have two kids, and I taught from kindergarten to high school for the first kid, and then again from same thing. And my passion is to see how people learn. So that is one of the things. I'm a teacher by what you call not by trade but by passion.
Yes.
And then I have dabbled in hardware, right, all this way all till the data centers, so I can manage data centers. I worked on very high-end chips, profiling them and all. So I have a background in chip design as well. I can code in a lot of languages, so that was required part of the thing. I've been in very high-profile places where I have to take care of the IT guys, make them comfortable with things like that. So that has been my career path. But on the side, I also dabbled in healthcare. So there were certain companies that I formed in healthcare as well, but they didn't go anywhere much because I tried to automate physician, what do you call,
Decision making.
decision making and things like that.
I
So
went down that path once
yes,
too. We can talk about that
yes,
another time.
yes. So healthcare is another passion for me, and
Yeah.
I have my own set of GPUs and things like that, and I go very deep into Kaggle contests and try to
Nice.
understand that. And what I've always felt was that I wish there was a knowledge graph that I could build, and I painfully built it also. So my first foray was a competitor, but then I felt that competitor wasn't good enough, and that's how I came to Neo4j, and this is few years back.
That happens all the time
Yes,
too.
and then it was with Jim, and I had the best time for 4 hours with him. It was the
Jim
end.
Weber.
It was the
Our
end
chief
of the summit.
scientist, Jim Weber.
This
Yep.
was the end of the summit, and Jim was talking.
Yeah.
So we talked for 4 hours or so. It was the best time. That's why I love Neo4j. And now I'm coming back after COVID, and that's
Yeah.
what I see. And I see you guys are doing a lot better in Neo4j.
Yeah, I mean, it's definitely always growing and always changing. So you said that you were previously with Neo4j. What are What are your kind of designs about what you want to do next? Now that you know a little bit more about what we have going.
So what has happened is that the knowledge that what we have gotten now is that we are able to query the LLM is able to get us data points and things like that. But all of these pieces are like spread out. It has to be put in order. There has to be a knowledge graph. So if people understand it or not, eventually they will build something in-house, and once they scale up, they'll realize, geez, we knew there was Neo4j.
Yeah.
And my take is the earlier you know about it, that's the better, because it will solve a lot of your problems.
Yeah.
I have about maybe 10 or 15 use cases where I can apply Neo4j from very basic things to pretty high-end stuff. So that
Can
is
you
why
share some of those with us?
Oh yeah, absolutely. So one of the things is in healthcare. What I noticed personally is my struggle is it's having a hard time to keep up with all the personal problems that where I'm having fights with. So I mine a lot of medical data for my personal things, and it's getting hard for me to keep track of this
Even just for yourself.
just for myself. So
Yeah.
it's my personal struggle, and that has taught me so much that I love the knowledge graphs. The same thing I think that even the kids that are growing up need to understand knowledge graph. Knowledge graph is nothing but a mind map, in the sense
Yes.
that you have built the connections, and I can ask you whatever questions I want, and the thing should be able to give me the answer. It's not only give you the answer, but I should be able to trace it back. So that is where the explainable part comes in. And then everything else you add on it, communities and all of those things, those are all very good. You should be able to visualize your data. The data is so big, if you don't have visualization, you cannot be sure why the answer was given to you.
Exactly. I mean, and that's the other thing that's really interesting to me about graph is there's so much that you can understand, even just with looking at it with a soft eye from the overall structure. Do you have satellites? Do you have large interconnected
Yes.
areas? So whether we're talking about, I don't know, any different kind of data set or even your own personal symptoms, right? Which are the things that co-occur the most often.
Yes.
And just looking at it visually just gives you a different way of interacting with
Yes.
the data itself.
So,
for sure.
so what I'm doing right now is very painfully trying to extract that information from ChatGPT and kind of store it in places.
Yeah.
And some of the drug interactions, I'm having a tough time even explaining to the doctor that these are potential drug interactions that are possible, and they are not up to date. In the sense, it is a hard problem. And for me, I'm so natural with data, so I can read MRIs, I can read CT scans and all. So I'll give you a very simple example. I was there with the spine specialist, and he needed to kind of find out if there's a bulge or somewhere in the spine.
Yep.
He was the only expert who could figure it out. If that was done by the earlier physician, who is also equally capable but not spine, she misdiagnosed it.
Oh no.
So we spent an hour trying to understand like why she misdiagnosed, and he was telling, I think this is the. So the experts, so you don't have to be an expert, but you should be able to write simple queries or in natural language say, what is this suffering from? It should be able to write it to you. And I can give you one specific example of lung cancer where Neo4j can shine. Lung cancer is a very hard problem.
Yeah.
And to detect, so when you have lung cancer, you want to go to the topmost radiologist. You don't mince money over there. You can mince money on the treatment, but not on the radiologist.
Yeah.
A 35-year-old radiologist who with years of experience can spot certain nodules that even today you cannot spot it on the machine.
Right.
And that part of it is what you can do with the knowledge graph, where he can say, show me something similar with this, does this patient have? And it will zoom in and be able to do it. What you're doing is you're taking the knowledge from the 35-year-old, bringing it, distilling it down to the 25 and 15-year-old, so that it becomes easy for the workflow. And my take is taking the domain expertise into someone who is not at that level, transferring it is what knowledge graph does.
Yeah.
The same thing you should teach kids very early on to understand mind map, to get very good in mathematics, to be able to keep things together, signed up. Then naturally they will understand knowledge graph growing up. And my take is the future is knowledge graph.
Yeah. So you mentioned a couple of things about education, and I know for a fact you and I have talked about your children, and we've talked about robotics. So if you were talking to folks who are parents, probably tech savvy, usually the children of people in our industry, but if there's something that you wanted to share with the non-tech parents, like what kinds of advice might you give them right now to help their children be ready for this future that even us in industry don't know what their life is going to look like in 10 years, much less 20?
So to work it backwards, I didn't know that I would be here today because I started in EE and the VLSI, so I pretty much at depth with it. Had I stuck to that field, I would have said this field is booming now. People over there did not realize it, and there was a slowdown midway.
Right.
My take is you should teach the kids how to learn. If you tell them how to learn, then they can pick up new things very fast.
Right.
And so this starts with either robotics, starting them very early on with robotics.
Yep.
So don't try to force math initially. Robotics will eventually morph into, when they get to higher problems, math and physics, they will start enjoying physics and math. But don't be behind them saying do robotics or things like that. Robotics is just a vehicle for the kids to learn, come together, have a group setting. So always make sure that the kids are comfortable in the group and leave them alone.
Yeah.
Just leave them alone and you'll find miracles happen. After like 2 or 3 months, the kids get better and better and better, and they become natural learners. So
awesome. I love it. I don't remember the name of the show, but you know the show where they've got the BattleBots?
BattleBots, yes.
BattleBots. My boys love BattleBots.
Yes.
They just need to learn how to build some BattleBots. So when we think about the future, I like to ask people, when you look forward as someone who's seen many things come and has an insight into what's going forward, is there something in particular, an innovation or an invention that you're either really excited about or really curious how that problem is going to be solved?
So my take, so a lot of parents may not agree with what I'm saying, but my take to them is, now that you know that ChatGPT is out, the first thing that you go and tell your kids, this is ChatGPT, this is how to use it. It's a tool.
Yes.
It's just like saying that don't go to Google search or like library, right?
Yep.
You cannot have a kid learn by themselves unless they went to a library. Same thing with Google search. And my take is the LLMs and ChatGPT are the next generation of this.
Agreed.
Don't try to keep them away from it. What you need to do is when they collect the information, ask them to do the critical thinking on it. It will help you do the critical thinking and help them build the mind map.
Yes.
Building the mind map is the stepping stone to knowledge graph with
That's a
Neo4j.
great idea.
So
I will say when GPT came out in November of 2022, it was early December that my boys and my neighbors and I were sitting around, and the boys were using it to write Christmas stories about elves in Vermont where I live. And a few months later, my son used it for a project he was working on. He's like, Mom, I wouldn't say it like that. And how do I know that that's actually true? I was like, well, so exactly what you're talking about, we've actually done. But what I love is this idea of taking it to the mind map and taking it to the next place and saying, teaching them about that interconnectedness and teaching them about, knowledge graphs from this very organic place. Just like you're saying, let the love of physics come from something fun like robotics. Let the understanding of knowledge graphs come from the fun of the mind map.
Yes.
Right?
So
I love that.
I'll give you another example, actual one. One of my friends is a professor at Stanford.
Yep.
And so what he does is that the day of the course starts, he says, oh, you can use ChatGPT and you can use whatever you want. And the questions he gives, he has his TA go and work it out in ChatGPT and make sure that the answer that they get is the wrong answer. And so now there are a few of these kids who think, oh, this is such an easy quiz, that they go ChatGPT, and I finished it off like within.
They didn't do so well. The hallucinations got them in the end.
Once the hallucination says, they throw ChatGPT out of the door. Like, we don't even want to go there. And then he says the thinking starts again. And when the thinking is starting, then they use ChatGPT as on a need basis.
Right. And like you said, it's all about learning how to learn and learning how to think. So, Sachin, thank you so much. I'm so glad we met the other day. And it's been great to spend time with you over these days. Sachin, Naik from Crisp AI, it's been great to have you.
Yeah.
All right, we'll see you again soon.
It was a pleasure coming here, and I enjoyed my time over here, and thank you for inviting me.
I look forward to seeing your next Neo4j project.
Oh, yeah.
All right, thank you so much. Take care.